Start your day by remembering Allah when you wake up, even if it's just a short dua. Pray your obligatory prayers, even if you feel distracted and heavy-hearted, because showing up is already half the victory. Set aside a few minutes to sit quietly with the Quran, even if it's just one verse. Speak kindly to someone else, even when you're struggling yourself. Forgive someone who hurt you, not because they deserve it, but because you trust that Allah will heal your heart when you let go of anger. These small, simple actions may not seem like much at first, but they are like drops of water filling a bucket, and one day you look back and see how full your life became, one small step at a time. And remember, you will stumble sometimes. You will have days when the sadness feels heavier again, when you feel distant from Allah, when you make mistakes you thought you'd left behind. That does not mean you failed. That does not mean Allah has turned away from you. It simply means you are human, and the door to turn back to Him is always open, no matter how many times you've walked away before. One of the most beautiful things about Allah's mercy is that He never expects you to arrive perfectly. He only asks that you keep walking toward Him. And every single step you take in His direction is met by Him coming closer to you even faster. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, when a servant of Allah moves to him a hand's length, Allah moves to him an arm's length. When he moves to him an arm's length, Allah moves to him a fathom's length. And when he comes to him walking, Allah comes to him running. So don't underestimate what one sincere step can do. One prayer, one tear, one whispered dua, one quiet moment of gratitude. These are not small things. They are the building blocks of a heart that stays alive, even through the darkest times. So tomorrow when you wake up and the weight feels heavy again, don't think about how far you have to go. Don't overwhelm yourself by thinking of all the things you're not yet doing or all the mistakes you're still making. Just focus on one thing you can do today, one step you can take toward Allah, and then take it. And trust that tomorrow He will help you take another, because that's what this journey is about. Not about perfection, not about reaching some ideal image of yourself overnight, but about showing up every day with whatever faith you can carry and trusting that He is guiding you home. And one day, whether it's in this life or the next, you look back and realize every single step mattered. Every single effort was seen, and every single tear you shed along the way was worth it. As you continue walking this path of faith, step by step, day by day, you begin to realize something profound. This journey is not just about you. It never was. Every trial you have endured, every silent prayer you have whispered, every lesson you have learned along the way, all of it has been shaping you, not only for your own growth, but so you can leave something behind that reaches beyond yourself. Because the believer does not live only for their own comfort, nor do they struggle only for their own salvation. The believer understands that their life is a trust from Allah, a gift that comes with responsibility, and that responsibility includes becoming a source of good in the lives of others. Look back at your own hardships for a moment. Remember how isolated you felt when you believed nobody could possibly understand what you were going through. Remember how much just one kind word, one sincere smile, one gentle reminder of Allah could have meant to you in those moments. Now realize that you have the ability to be that for someone else simply because you have lived through it yourself. Leaving a legacy of faith does not necessarily mean building great institutions or delivering powerful lectures. For many people, it happens in much quieter ways. It happens in how you carry yourself in the small moments of everyday life. It happens in how you show mercy when you could have been harsh, how you speak truth when silence would have been easier, how you forgive when bitterness seems justified. One of the greatest forms of sadaqah jariyah, ongoing charity, is a life lived in such a way that others are reminded of Allah simply by knowing you. When people see your patience through adversity, your gratitude even in times of loss, your steadfastness in prayer when the world around you seems to forget. That is da'wah in its most powerful and sincere form. You may think no one notices the effort you make, but you have no idea how many hearts you may be touching simply by refusing to give up. Perhaps there is a young person in your family who watches how you pray and decides to take their own faith more seriously. Perhaps there is a friend who sees how you stay hopeful in hardship and begins to believe that Allah might love them too. Perhaps your quiet resilience plants a seed in someone else's heart that bears fruit years from now, long after you have moved on from this world. In the Quran, Allah describes the people of faith as those who plant seeds that grow into lush gardens, their goodness rippling outward beyond what they themselves can see. That is the kind of life you are capable of living, one that leaves behind a trail of light, even in places you yourself never walked. But to build a legacy of faith, you must live intentionally. It means reminding yourself every morning that your actions, your words, even your silence have weight. It means choosing to carry yourself with dignity and humility, not because it's easy, but because it pleases Allah. It means making decisions not just based on what feels good in the moment, but on what will bring you closer to Him in the long term. Your legacy is not just what people say about you after you're gone. It's also what they feel when they think of you, whether they remember you as someone who made them feel hopeful, as someone who reminded them of their worth in the eyes of Allah, as someone who lived with quiet strength that inspired them to keep going. When you think of your own role models, the people who helped you through your hardest moments, they probably weren't perfect, but they showed you that faith was still possible, that hope was still alive, that Allah's mercy was still there. That is what you can be for others in ways big or small, whether you ever know it or not. Every act of kindness, every moment of patience, every prayer you make for someone else without them knowing, all of it is recorded with Allah. All of it becomes part of your legacy. And when your time in this world comes to an end, you will find those deeds waiting for you, multiplied and more beautiful than you ever imagined. Living with this awareness does not just change how you face hardship, it transforms how you face life itself. Because you stop living just to survive, and you start living to leave behind something meaningful. You start to see every moment as an opportunity to plant seeds that will grow long after you are gone. And on the day of judgment, when you stand before your Creator, nothing else will matter more than knowing you used the life He gave you to help guide others closer to Him, even in the smallest ways. That is what it means to leave a legacy of faith, to live not just for yourself, but for the sake of the one who created you and for the good of His creation, trusting that everything you gave will come back to you in ways more lasting and more precious than anything this world could offer. Your story does not end when your hardship ends, nor does it end when your life ends. It continues in the lives of those you touched, in the hearts you helped heal, in the light you left behind. As you reflect on everything you've endured and everything you've learned along the way, you start to see your life differently. You realize that the journey itself is as important as the destination, because it is on this journey that you discover who you really are and how deeply you are connected to the one who created you. Too often, we think of life only in terms of reaching milestones, of finally being happy, finally having peace, finally feeling fulfilled. We tell ourselves that once we graduate, once we marry, once we have children, once we achieve success, once we recover from heartbreak, then we will be content. But contentment is not something that waits for you at the end of the road. Contentment is something you learn to carry with you on the road itself. Because this world is not Jannah. It was never meant to be perfect. It was never meant to feel complete. The trials you face here are not interruptions of your life, they are your life. This is the arena where your patience is tested, where your faith is built, where your love for Allah is proven. And so, the believer learns to embrace the journey itself, not because it is always easy, not because it is free from pain, but because we know who is guiding it. When you embrace the journey, you stop demanding answers to every why. You stop thinking you need to control every outcome. You stop expecting life to conform to your plan, and instead you start trusting the wisdom of His plan. It is easy to say you trust Allah when things are going your way, but true trust shows itself when nothing seems to make sense and you still choose to say, I don't understand yet, but I know you do. And that is what you are called to do in this life, not to understand everything, but to trust the one who already does. Think of a child riding in the backseat of a car, watching trees and buildings blur by outside the window. The child doesn't know exactly where the road leads or why the driver makes certain turns. But the child trusts that the driver knows the way, and so he sits back, quiet, with faith that he will arrive where he needs to be. That is how you are meant to journey through this world, like a traveler who understands that the road may twist and turn, but every step is bringing you closer to your true home. And along the way you will stumble, you will make mistakes, you will have days when your heart feels heavy again, when you feel far from Allah, when you wonder if you're strong enough to keep going. That does not mean you are failing. That does not mean Allah has abandoned you. Even when you feel distant, He is near. Even when you feel unworthy, He is waiting. Even when you feel lost, He is guiding you in ways you cannot yet see. So keep walking, keep praying. Even when you feel distracted, keep whispering His name. Even when your heart feels dry, keep showing up. Even when your faith feels small. Because Allah does not ask you to be perfect. He does not ask you to never feel sad, to never feel doubt, to never feel weak. He only asks you to keep turning back to Him again and again, no matter how many times you fall. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us that Allah is more merciful to His servant than a mother is to her child. And think about what that means. A mother does not abandon her child when he stumbles. She picks him up, wipes his tears, holds his hand, and helps him take another step.